This is Surrogacy Unwrapped. Today's episode, Making the Right Connection, Surrogate and Intended Parent Match Meeting Tips.
Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about helpful tips to have a successful match meeting. As a reminder, my name is Kristie, and I am the surrogate coordinator, and my partner in crime is Mariah, our case manager. Hello, hello.
Hello, we're so glad you're here.
I wanted to give a little kind of like announcement about this session. I don't want anyone to assume that we are going to give you tips to guarantee a match. As great as that would be, I just don't think that is realistic. This call or episode is meant to give you tips on how to be open and transparent and vulnerable and just all the things that are necessary in a match meeting, and whether or not you secure a match is a different ballgame, if you will. Some match meetings don't turn into matches, and that's okay. That just wasn't your right person, your right fit. But hopefully we are guiding you on ways to have a very successful match meeting in order to find said right individual or team.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mariah, I would like to know, why is an open and honest and respectful conversation key to a successful match meeting?
Oh, man. Well, I would say that the match meeting, which just for a little background is, whenever you see a profile, both parties agree. They say, yes, I like this person. They seem great. I'd like to meet them and I would like to know more about them. So it's the first time the parties are connecting live, I guess, or in person or virtually. But it's really great because you are getting to ask them all the questions you might have, get a feel for them, kind of see how their demeanor is on both sides. So it's really great. And it's so important to put everything out there that's important to you that you know so far in a match meeting, because most of the time when matches have a harder time or struggle, it's missed expectations that may or may not have been covered during match meetings. So it's really
lack of communication too.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So just being able to say exactly kind of what you want out of a journey, and in terms of all the things that we're going to cover tonight, but relationship and communication and all of it. It's so important to get it out on the table so that way you know what they want and they know what you want.
Right. So speaking of locations, you had an independent surrogacy journey. I worked with an agency. What was your match meeting like? What was the location? Was it virtual, in person? How did that happen?
Oh gosh.
Do you remember?
You're taking me way back. I haven't even thought about this in so long. Mine was, the way I met my intended mother was complete serendipity. It was just meant to be. And so I talked to her on the phone the first time, and then we met at a restaurant in person. So, which is not super common. Match meetings don't always happen in person. So the first time I met her was with her and her mom, and we all had lunch together, and it was awesome.
Nice. Was Bobby with you, or were you solo?
It was just me for the first one, and then once she decided she liked me and I fit the bill, she and I made plans for her and her husband and me and my husband to all go out, and we went to like a little brewery. It was really fun, and it was awesome. Like we always joke that my intended father and my husband have a total bromance, and they just hit it off and hit the ground running, and they're still great friends. So
I love that. I actually also met my intended parents for the first time in restaurants without any agency support there. They just kind of like let you go. And now being on this side of it in the agency and seeing how we do it virtually, which, as you said, I think majority of the people do it virtual nowadays. I think what I had to do and what you had to do was terrifying. I'm not pretty much a people person, but still the thought of just randomly, literally going on a blind date to have someone else's baby it's kind of crazy.
Yep. Yep.
But it worked out, and here we are. Two surrogacy journeys later, and it was all fine. But I will say I think I prefer the virtual setup, and especially in our situation with an agency where you have an agency representative there just to kind of make sure things aren't getting quiet and awkward.
Oh yeah, we'll
At
talk
the
all
restaurant
about
with us.
that. Yes.
So, do you have maybe one or two solid tips on ways to help people feel comfortable or at ease during the meeting, whether it's live or virtual or in person? Is there anything that you would recommend to kind of just shake out the nerves?
Yeah, so I like to just call out the elephant in the room. Hey, this is going to be kind of awkward. I always tell both parties it feels like first date type vibes. You don't really know how to feel. You're really nervous. You don't know why you're nervous. And it's just really like if you just call it out from the beginning, it tends to be a little bit more easy for everyone because everyone's feeling that way. And then I would say just being really genuine, being true to yourself. Not sometimes I'm like, hide your camera, like hide your screen because you get too concerned with like how you're looking or if you're smiling too much or if you're not smiling enough. And then all of a sudden you're making crazy faces. Just be genuine, be yourself and like let that shine through because that's ultimately the best matches that I see are people that are just genuinely themselves from the start.
Nice. When you are being the agency representative, is there anything that you do specifically to help all parties feel comfortable or to get the meeting started?
So we started out with like ground rules and expectations, kind of letting everybody know that nobody's making a decision on this call with them staring at you. Nobody's going to sit here and go, so do you want to match at the end of the call and put the pressure on you? You get time afterwards to think about it. I'm not even going to text you or email you right away afterwards. I'm going to give you time. And if you have questions, reach out to me. Great. But kind of soak it all in and process it and then go from there. And then another thing that we do, or I feel is important as any agency should do and good ones do, is just bring up I call them big ticket items.
Yes.
So bringing up the things that people are match points. Now, of course, for us at Family Choice, when we put two people together in a match call, we know that they align on compensation. We know that they align on termination views. We know that there's not going to be anything huge that would not allow these people to match. Now, even though we know that, I still think it's really important to bring it up. So that way it can be addressed and you feel at ease. Because otherwise you're just taking my word for it that, if you're the surrogate, that your intended parents feel the same way that you do about termination. But no, let's actually have a quick conversation. We can't cover every single scenario, but we can discuss it and make sure you guys feel okay about how the other person feels. Just really talking about the big ticket items and then making sure that everybody knows you're not making the decision on the call.
I love that. And I think that there's something to be said about hearing the way someone explains something with their voice, their words, their mannerisms. I mean, you're finding out about these people and their match preferences typically from their profile and again through your agency representative. You aren't hearing how they feel, and I just think that adds a whole nother layer, and that's why match meetings are amazing because you're getting more of the whole picture of this individual, not just what you saw on a printed profile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so something that I know we do is we have the surrogates and the intended parents start off by sharing a little bit about themselves. Where are they from? How did they get here? What has brought them to surrogacy on both parties? Why do you think having that little bit of an introduction makes a difference?
Well, one, sometimes people find out that either they're closer to each other than they realized, or, oh, you live in the same hometown as my parents, or, oh, we lived there for 4 years. It's just another point of connection, right? Yes. And finding out how they've gotten to this point of their surrogacy journey, for me personally, having been a surrogate, and maybe you can speak to this, half of the reason why I picked my intended parents is their story. It was, it's all of them are not all of them. I shouldn't say all of them. The majority of them are heartbreaking, and it's been trials and fails or whatever. And it brings you to this point. And this is why we all get into it. We all get into it to help. That's ultimately what we want to do. So
Yeah.
hearing their story and understanding them a little bit more, and then being able to connect on that. Oh, this is exactly why I wanted to do this.
Yes.
It's a great connection point.
Yeah. And I think even for the intended parents, on the flip side, to hear the surrogate and her story and what has brought her to surrogacy, people have a lot of assumptions about why women become surrogates. And so to be able to hear her heart and her compassion and her why, I think really goes a long way. And it just helps to make all parties feel and seem more real.
Absolutely.
Some examples of effective questions. How did you both meet? What do you hope for in your family's future? And, again, summing up what you said, benefits of being open and honest is you're fostering empathy, understanding, and connection.
Yep. Yes.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about understanding some boundaries and communication preferences. Can you explain why setting communication boundaries and preferences early on is important? Like even early on as this match meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, not every person wants the same thing out of a journey, and that's on both parties, as an intended parent, as a surrogate. Some people want to be incredibly involved as intended parents. They want every single update. My intended mother was what she would identify as type A, and she would say, I want to be involved in every single process, every single part. Even if I don't need to do anything, let me know. Then we have other intended parents who might be a little more hands-off. They know they hired an agency. That's kind of the point. That's what they wanted, is to just kind of let somebody take the stress over for them. And same with surrogates. Some surrogates want to text all the time and send updates. And some surrogates are like, hey, I got 3 kids of my own. Don't have time for it. So sorry. I'll text you every Friday. So making sure that you guys align on that, or at least you're okay with how they want to communicate. So many times we see surrogates say, oh, it's whatever the intended parents want. It's whatever the intended parents want. But you got to be careful with that, because sometimes they're going to tell you that they want texts every single day. And then when you're 7 months pregnant and your kids are needy and you're real done being pregnant and they want to text every day, maybe you shouldn't have said, I'll do whatever they want. So, making sure that you really understand what they want, what they're asking, make sure they're understanding the surrogate's situation and what she's able to do. But just having those expectations set so that way everyone is on the same page.
Yeah. And I think there's just, you're being realistic. Being realistic about your life, your time, your availability, what is going to make everyone feel happy and comfortable. And I really do feel like, especially from a surrogate perspective, myself, speaking for myself, I want to make my intended parents as comfortable as possible, as part of the journey as possible. And whatever needs to happen, I want to do. But like you said, Mariah, is that being realistic of my time, my availability to do that well and without creating tension or whatever? So you just got to really be honest with yourself, and on all of it, and sharing to the people in your match meeting what it means to effectively communicate with you and what you are needing out of that relationship. Honesty goes a long way.
Absolutely. And I think something that is important to note is that if there's an intended mother involved, and if she's turned to surrogacy for reasons that she can't carry, sometimes getting consistent updates or getting all of the, communication can be kind of painful and overwhelming. Because sometimes there are intended mothers who really, really, really wanted to carry and
100%.
still turned to surrogacy. So sometimes they may not want to know everything, and they just want to know that everything's good and that's enough for them. So just kind of coming from a place of empathy and understanding, for sure.
Also, something to know is sometimes when intended parents are coming from a place that has been difficult and may have experienced a lot of losses, they may not feel comfortable and ready to be very open and communicative in the very early stages of preparing for transfer, right during the transfer, or shortly after, while they're getting, the pregnancy is becoming established, maybe because they haven't made it to that point of the pregnancy safely before. And so it's just holding their breath. And so if they're able to express that during the match meeting, like, hey, I care, but I need some space during these early weeks, I think that goes a long way. And to your point, that the surrogate can be empathetic to the journey that these individuals have gone on, it just makes the world a difference in everyone's experience.
Yep, absolutely.
So next, let's talk a little bit more about discussing birth plans and those types of preferences. So Mariah, this is your bread and butter because you have a vast knowledge as a doula and obviously the expertise you bring to the surrogacy field.
Sure.
So why is it important to get an idea during the match meeting about birth expectations?
Yeah. So, I mean, so many reasons, but I think a lot of times people have never made it this far. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what's even an option. If it's, a same-sex male couple, they may have never seen a birth or have any idea what to understand. If it's a same-sex female couple, it doesn't matter. It may be that my intended mother told me, I've literally never seen a birth. I don't know anything about it.
Sure.
Help me, please. So, it's so important to, one, kind of create an understanding around it. Two, I think it's really great to just jump on a video call all together. Hey, let's lay out anything that you really want that's really important to you. So it's said beforehand because you can't get it back. So if it's really important to you that you get to cut the cord or whatever as the intended parent, then that needs to be said so that way it can be a priority as long as obviously everything is safe. It's also really important to understand who the surrogate's going to have present. Is she going to have a doula? Hopefully. Is she going to have, her partner there? Is she going to have her sister? Who knows? And then where is she going to be delivering? Which this of course comes in legal and is addressed hopefully long before delivery. But, if she's delivering at a birth center or, if she's delivering with a midwife, what does that look like for you? What does that mean?
What are you comfortable with?
Yeah. What are you comfortable with? Exactly. And I mean, I delivered in a hospital with a midwife and she was phenomenal. And my intended mother caught her baby, which was something I wanted. And she didn't even know it was a possibility until I said, hey, how do you feel about catching her? And she was like, I can do that. I'm like, absolutely. Yeah, you can. So, if we would have never spoken about it, she would have never known.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. And again, the match meeting is so early on. So this is just a open and honest, transparent conversation. What are you foreseeing to take place? We don't know how the pregnancy is going to go. We don't know what circumstances are going to arise when it's time to give birth to this baby. If it's going to turn into a C-section, that changes, who can and can't be in the room. There's several different factors. So we're just trying to open the door to open conversation of what we would like to have happen. If it's, all great and dandy and there's no complications. And as Mariah stated, a lot of this will be discussed also in legal. And then once birth is getting closer, y'all, hopefully we do with Family Choice Surrogacy, but hopefully if you're with a different agency or independent, we'll work to create a birth plan to help kind of clear the air as things have progressed to that point.
Yeah. And that's a great point to even bring up in itself is that, if you're on a match call, this surrogate may know that she's going to have a C-section. She may know that the birth will be a C-section. So that's important to kind of set that expectation because a lot of times hospitals will only allow one person in there. Now, understandably, most surrogates say, I'd like that to be my support person. Every once in a while, I've seen them say, nope, I'm good. I'd like it to be one of my intended parents. So if it's really important to you as an intended parent that you're in the room, voicing that or being willing to work together to talk to the hospital, hey, can we make an exception and can there be two people in the room? Which I have seen before as well. So definitely important.
Yeah, advocate for sure.
Yes, my favorite thing.
Another thing that you could talk about during your match meeting to help make sure you're covering all the bases is your post-birth relationship expectations. What is everybody hoping for after the bundle of joy has arrived? So, Mariah, again,
Mhm.
you stated already, you and I are both previous surrogates. So, when you first started your journey, what was your post-birth relationship desires and expectations? And now that you are in that position, baby's here, time has passed. Did that happen?
Yeah, so we talked about it beforehand. Sorry, you're gonna hear my dogs whine. Every time I try to do all the things to make sure that they won't bark, but they always get me somehow. So yeah, we had a lot of conversations, and it was very important to my intended parents that their daughter could talk to me at any point during her life if she ever had questions. They wanted me to be involved after in a way, not necessarily like actively, but able to meet up if we wanted to, or if she wanted to reach out to me. And so we talked about it a lot, and then we do have that. They're great. I actually just had dinner with them last week.
Nice.
They have a little name for her, or that she calls me. It's very cute. And we have a great post-birth relationship. And actually, we did have, a couple small hiccups throughout our journey. And it's always really funny because we'll, laugh about it now over dinner. And, oh man, that was so high stress. Like, wasn't that kind of great? It's like our war days. We're like, whew, that was wild. But it is something that now we have a very close relationship about. And it was part of that started from the match meeting. The match meeting, we discussed what our relationship would look like after the fact. We nailed, kind of all the topics of, are you going to tell your child she was born via surrogacy? Are you as the surrogate okay if she wants to reach out to you? All of those things were discussed at that first restaurant meeting. So
Yeah.
And I'm sure yours were similar.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm happy to report that the desires that I had for my surrogacy journeys post-birth experience have come to fruition. I have great relationships with both my intended parents and the kids. I think that it's important, yes, we're telling you to have this conversation, to set some ideal expectations and share, again, be honest and open about what you are hoping for, but be realistic too, that this is a developing relationship. And just like when you're, take it back to kindergarten and on the playground and making a new friend, like it's just going to take time and things are going to happen, good or bad, messy, whatever, during your journey that could change or navigate for the good or the worse your post-birth relationship. And so everybody is going to go into this, sharing what they're hoping for. And I just think it's important to understand that getting from point A to point B might not result in that relationship coming to exactly what you envisioned or had hoped for. And that's, I don't want to say it's okay, because especially in the times when it's not and it didn't go on the positive end, then no, I'm sure that is very devastating and it isn't okay for a lot of people who've walked that path. But on the other hand, there are relationships I think, have blossomed and turned into something even more than you could have imagined. And I think that's amazing too.
And I think that's so important. Like, obviously we want every single journey to go perfectly.
Right.
They don't always, and things happen and we face hardships and, maybe you come back to it or maybe, like you said, it doesn't end up how you wanted. But at the end of the day, like you still were doing this incredible thing and being willing to help someone. And as an intended parent, you like went down this very brave path of becoming a parent through surrogacy. And both of those things are still true. And that doesn't change regardless of how the relationship is at the end.
Exactly. I agree. Okay. I don't really love this next part of the discussion, but it is so important. So we must talk about it.
Yes.
Addressing the sensitive topics and practical concerns of a journey. So navigating these hard conversations, as much as I don't even like talking about it, it's even harder on the actual match meeting. So could you share some examples of what some of these tougher questions that need to really come up during a match meeting, again, to solidify the fact that everybody is on the same page?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the big one that is always everybody's number one is termination. It's really important that you do think about it. It happens very rarely. and we hope that it does not have to be brought up. But if it does need to be brought up, it is very important that it is not the first time it's been discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very important that you guys matched on views that you align on. And I have actually seen a person change their mind on what they believed, and they didn't know that, and it surprised them. So it's really, really important that you think about this before you create a profile, and then talk about it on your match meeting and have the conversation around termination for many things. If there's 3 babies, or 3 embryos, that end up happening, if there's a splitter or 2 splitters, which can happen, but
right.
If there is a baby that has Downs, it's really important because there are parents out there that want to terminate if their baby has Down syndrome. And that's, a choice that needs to be discussed beforehand. So some people will say, yep, I'm okay with termination. It's up to the parents. But we need to make sure that we fully understand what they could terminate for. Now, it's not, I have never seen it happen. I've heard of it happening. I don't know if it's actually true, but there is also termination for gender. I don't think
we don't do that here.
No.
Yes.
No, I don't think they do that anymore with PGT testing, but also, there is, and with PGT testing, it does help to show that the embryo is genetically normal for the most part. It does not catch everything. It does not catch everything. So it's really important to discuss those things. And that brings me to discussing whether or not their embryos are tested, because sometimes people choose not to test their embryos. So if that's important to you as a surrogate, you need to ask that in the match call. Are your embryos tested? How many embryos do you have? Sometimes people have 1 embryo and they only have 1 shot. That was my intended parents. And it worked. She's about to be 3, but sometimes it's important to a surrogate that they have the ability to do it more than once. So having those discussions, how many attempts you're willing to do with someone, which again, nobody's going to hold you to that. It's just how many you're willing to. Nobody's going to say you have to try again. But it is important to say, I'm willing to try 3 times with this set of intended parents, or no, I only want to try twice, So those are all kind of bigger topics, like the harder ones.
Yes.
I would say. Diet and exercise for sure. That should be brought up because sometimes there's weird things. I don't
on both sides. I mean, there could be a surrogate who is very, into body lifting or whatever, weightlifting, and that's super important to her. And, maybe intended parents hadn't considered that. And so she should talk to them about her lifestyle and exercise routines to see if that would, be a concern to them. Or maybe the intended parents are really concerned that she, eats all organic. You can go both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Both sides for sure. It should be discussed. And if there's not anything weird, then that's fine. You can move on, but it should definitely be brought up.
Yes,
absolutely. We have a question. Who decides how many embryos can be transferred? Which is a great question. And
a match point.
A match point that I completely missed, which is double embryo transfer. So less and less common we're seeing double embryo transfers. There is a lot of risk with a double embryo transfer, which means 2 embryos are transferred at the same time into the same uterus. There is the chance that 1 or both embryos can split and you can end up pregnant with 1 to 4 babies. And that is extreme and risky. And so there's a lot that can, even being pregnant with twins, you end up with a lot of extra factors. Kristie can attest to that.
Been there, done
that. But discussing how many embryos you're willing to transfer as a surrogate should be brought up at match. And if intended parents really, really want to do a double embryo transfer, that needs to be discussed. It needs to be agreed upon, and the surrogate needs to be fully informed of all of the risk factors from the the clinic.
The
So
clinic too, I believe, would weigh in on whether or not they would support that.
yep.
I think they would have a say in it as well, which that
Yeah,
isn't part of the match meeting because they're not a part of the match meeting, but
sure.
the intended parent should know that going in, what their clinic would allow as
Sure.
far as a double embryo or a single embryo.
And I've actually seen in past a couple of intended parents match with a surrogate. They were all on board for a double embryo transfer. And when she went through her med screening, the clinic said, actually, we're only approving her for a single embryo transfer.
Yeah.
And it ended up breaking the match, which was interesting. But yeah, it definitely is a match point. I also think we're going to see double embryo transfers kind of fade.
I mean, they've faded out in just my time. My surrogacy journey was my first one, I think, like 9 years ago already. And I just think things have changed crazy already. So I agree. I just think it's going to keep going. And more surrogates are just becoming more educated. They are doing more research. And so I think they're more aware of the risk factors that are involved with carrying multiples. And so as that continues to rise, I think we're more and more looking at a single embryo transfer world.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we just see less and less clinics even willing to support it.
Yeah, for sure.
2 more questions. Who chooses what provider the GC will see throughout her pregnancy?
So again, another really a match preference. We asked this on our matching questionnaires if this is important to you. A lot of times what I see is that intended parents want to support, the surrogate has had healthy, strong pregnancies, has a great connection with her provider, is still living in that area, still seeing that provider. They want her to feel comfortable and that provider knows her health history, her pregnancy history, and has, done deliveries with her before. So that is typically, kind of how that comes together. Another factor to consider is health insurance. So if the surrogate's personal health insurance isn't surrogacy friendly and a policy is having to be taken out for her, that could put her with different providers. And in that moment, the intended parents and the surrogate may work together with the insurance provider to try and find a medical team that everybody can agree on. Another example I've seen, especially in the situation where a surrogate is like, whatever they want, whatever the intended parents want, she may be willing to, if the intended parents recommended a provider that they have done a lot of research on, she may be willing to utilize their provider within reason if, she's open to that change, or if she's no longer seeing the OB she had delivered with anyway. There's several factors. Do you have any other examples, Mariah?
No, I think you hit it all on the head. I think a big one that you can't dictate no matter what is where she delivers.
Yes.
She will deliver, state-wise, geographically, I should say.
Yes.
She will deliver in the state that she resides in. It's where the contract will be taken out and drafted. And it will also be verified that her delivery hospital is in network before she delivers. So that's probably the only thing that is really dictated by legal and insurance side of things. And that's probably the only one. Our next question is, how often does your agency communicate with the couple and surrogate?
Mariah, you're welcome to answer this one about it. Well, let's just assume it's after the match meeting.
Yeah. So after a match call, we at Family Choice give you 24 hours and we reach back out and say, hey, how's it going? How you feeling? Do you have any questions? Just kind of checking in, seeing how everybody's feeling about it. And then from there, hope to get a response. And if we don't, we'll follow up again within another 24 hours. So yes. I ask parents that, and it's up to them. For intended parents, it's something that I will cover with you when we first meet. I find out how often you want to be communicated with. I find out in what way you want to be communicated with. And I make sure that I kind of follow that throughout, because again, we take into consideration maybe intended parents. We have a set right now that we're like, hey, just let us know if we need to do something. Besides that, I trust you guys. And I'm like, great. All right. Like, that makes my job real easy. So it just depends on what they want. And then on the surrogacy side, we're just keeping them updated. There's just usually so much for them to do.
And we also want to check in with them when we know they have appointments.
Yes.
It's important that intended parents are being updated after appointments, and not that we're trying to, be all up in the business and annoy them or anything of that nature, but we just need to make sure that we are aware of next appointments, that the intended parents have been informed of any medical updates, and honestly, we care. We also want to know that the surrogate and the baby are doing well. And so we are checking in with them in particular on appointments, and then all throughout, because as Mariah said, there's just a lot that goes down.
Yep, absolutely. So there's a lot of communication. I don't think you go too long without hearing from us, honestly. But yeah, we communicate pretty regularly with our we develop our own little relationships with them that is on both sides. That is just really fun.
I agree.
It's part of how we end up celebrating all the wins and feeling all the losses, for sure.
So true. We're very emotional right over here.
Yeah. Sometimes we're supporting each other through it.
Okay. Anything else, Mariah, before I wrap us out here?
Not that I see. Oh, you're going to wrap us out?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why I said that, but is it all right?
No, I liked it. I just thought maybe you had a cute wrap prepared.
I didn't know. And now that you said, I was taking it as WRAP and
got it,
tying it into our unwrapped. And now that you thought I meant wrapped, I really am not. I don't have that skill set.
I thought you were going to just
not about to lay the beat down. No.
I was so excited. That's what I needed on this Tuesday. Thank you for watching us. Thank you so much for being here and listening to us ramble for 30 minutes. We really appreciate it.
Very much so.